Just quickly, is there anybody here that's new tonight? Oh, yeah. You're waving. You're not new. Nice. Okay. If there's nobody that's new, that's fine then. If that's the case, we'll get straight into it. You can find a comfortable meditation posture. And see if you can just immediately drop into what's happening in your experience in the present. Feeling of your body sitting here, sounds in the room, the temperature. You can notice the kind of affective or feeling state you might have, state of the mind. Feeling calm and ready, or maybe still a little wound up from the trip in. See if you can drop everything and just relax into your posture and ease into the meditation. There's nothing for you to do. There's nowhere for you to go. Any concerns or issues or ideas that might be bubbling up. Just put these aside for now. We can just switch off, turn off the world. And just be right here. Just allow yourself to sink in to your regular method of meditation, whatever that is. If you've started to drift away, or maybe feeling dull and lethargic, drifted off course, just simply start again. Any of the undercurrents or background mental states that might be pulling you to and fro, step away from them and re-establish your mindfulness, your awareness back on your meditation object. tensing or tightening than you notice anywhere in your experience. Even if it's mental tensing or tightening. Try and release that tension. The more you're able to release, the more stillness you find, the more freedom, the more ease. Good. Nice. Quiet group tonight. That's nice. Usually in Melbourne, you have somebody come into the hall and they got like a puffer jacket on, and they decide, oh, I'm going to sit on the floor and I haven't really done this before, and they sit there and they sort of wrecks the whole vibe of the night, and there's nobody had a puffer jacket on and was moving around, and it was good. Okay. Time of the night when got any things coming up in your practice you want to talk about, ask about? Anyone's got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask now. Anybody online that want to have a burning concern that they have?
Thank you, Ajahn. We do actually have 3 questions online at the moment, so I might start with one of those and then just see if we're going to alternate if there are any questions in the hall.
Ball rolling.
Just a welcome to all our visitors, participants around. I'll just say that we've got Geelong, Amsterdam, Ireland, Horsham, Sydney, I think possibly Thailand, South Florida, and other Portugal and Poland. So quite an international contingent tonight. The first question is, are intuitive thoughts during stillness meditation efforts reliable? And, so second question, what is a good way to recollect the Buddha during meditation?
Yeah, cool. Good questions. I'll start with the second one. What is a good way to recollect the Buddha during meditation? So it is a specific kind of meditation that one can do. This is a whole different kind of meditation called Buddhanussati, and this is recollection or mindfulness of the Buddha. You can do this in a variety of ways. You can, the standard way to do it is that you might recollect the qualities of the Buddha. So that chant that we do quite regularly about the Buddha, you can recollect those qualities, and you can try to, think of the Buddha and bring that up. You can also bring up any kind of Dhamma that he might have taught, and then think of the qualities of a great teacher in that kind of way. Some people like to do that and think of the kind of the individual that the Buddha might have been. And that might bring up some kind of faith. So the idea behind doing something like Buddhanussati is to you could say like brighten up the mind with a kind of confidence. So we can do that. Some people like to visualize an image of the Buddha, either from a statue that they might have, or they could maybe have an idealized version of what the Buddha is, and bring that up in their mind. Another way you can do it is just, this is the standard Thai forest way, is to repeat over and over in your mind, Buddha, 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 and you can think of the Buddha in that way. Maybe again think of the qualities. So there are a whole different bunch of ways that you can actually do it and do Buddhanussati in that way. But again, the idea is to, in some way, like inspire confidence, inspire some kind of conviction, some kind of faith. So whatever it is for you yourself, of when you think about the Buddha, and that's the thing that actually gives you, uplifts your mind, then you just try to do that. And to the first question of intuitive thoughts that come up when your mind is still, can you trust them? This is a little bit more difficult to answer because it depends on the intuitive thought, and it depends what the intuitive thought is about. Let's say you have absolutely no expertise at all about, and you know nothing about the Olympic Games. You know nothing about the Olympic Games, you know nothing about the sports, you know nothing about any of these kinds of things, but yeah, out of stillness, some sort of intuitive thought comes up about the Olympic Games. Maybe I should bet on the equestrian or something like that. This is not an intuitive thought that you want to follow or that you could rely on. Now, the reason we have, you could say, intuitive thoughts is because we have experience. We have a lot of experience about a particular thing, and because of that kind of expertise or familiarity with that, then you can get a kind of intuitive thought that seems like a sort of a breakthrough kind of thing. So if it's about something that is you could say something a little bit more that we're more familiar with, then yeah, sometimes we can trust these kinds of intuitive thoughts. If it's maybe like a problem that we've been sitting on for a long period of time and we're sitting in meditation and things are still, and then a kind of intuitive thought pops up, yeah, it might be something that we can take a little bit more seriously. But I think the overall caveat should remain is that, you know, whatever sort of appears in our existence, we have to see that as something that, okay, well, it might be something that is useful, it might be something that is skillful, it might be something that is beneficial, it might be something that can help us move our life in a particular kind of way. But it is just an experience. It is just a thought that comes up. Thoughts come, thoughts go. So they're not something that you can maybe say with 100% certainty that thing is true and right. Likewise, you can't say with 100% certainty that thing is 100% wrong. Again, if it's something intuitive that comes up and you're familiar with, and you think, oh well, this is the kind of the answer that I was looking for in this problem or something like that, then that's fine. You can sort of you can maybe, you know, look at that as something a little bit more reliable. But if it's just something that's, you know, kind of random, that's popped up there, you know, I wouldn't give them too much weight. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Ajahn. Are there any questions here in the hall?
Hey. Not sure if it's a question or an observation.
Yeah.
I'm not used to doing hour-long meditations, so my first one was last Monday here, well, the first one in about 5 years.
Yep.
And this being my second one. Both times, I think, particularly the first 25 minutes tonight went surprisingly quick, because that was the first time I glanced at my watch.
Yep. Yep.
And then after that, I realised my attention was on the time, pretty much right till the end.
Yep.
It's
torturous, isn't it?
Yeah, I became aware of my attention being on the time and not on my breath or whatever. Yep. And I thought, oh, that's quite good that I've noticed that, but I couldn't stop it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I just was after your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very normal and natural thing that it's essentially, as you said, it's not really something that you've done too many times, so it is like an hour, so you're not really used to it. It sounds more like you're maybe used to maybe doing 20, 25-minute meditations. So essentially this is just what you're used to, 20, 25-minute meditation. So that's the kind of, okay, this is what I feel comfortable doing, and I feel like I'm in the zone in that time. But then when that's over, it's like, okay, I'm in new territory now. I'm in new territory. So whenever we're in new territory, we're sort of unsure about what's going on, and we doubt things. So it's like if you walk into, let's say, if you're in your house and the lights go out in your house, you can basically walk around your house and it's fine. You know where everything is. If you're in a new room, a brand new room, and the lights go out, it's like, I don't know where I am. You're doubting, you're second guessing things. You're sort of a bit more on alert, a bit more fidgety kind of thing. it's very similar with meditation. If it's something that you haven't really encountered yet, we become uncertain about it. We sort of doubt it. It's like, well, what's some kind of certainty I can have? And time is one of them. So I can be certain about the time. This is how long I've been doing this. So it's just something that you're just not quite used to yet. You're a little bit uncertain, and yeah, obviously there's some kind of uncertainty brings about a kind of agitation, and a kind of agitation, we do anything to reduce that agitation. So in some way it's like, reducing the agitation, when will this thing be over? We look at the time. So that's why all the clocks in the VSV, they're all facing towards me. And none of them are facing towards all you. So if it's actually I said about the puffer jackets before, but actually if you put clocks in meditation halls and you face them towards the group, people are more fidgety. People are just generally more fidgety because they keep looking at that's why we face clocks away from you all. It's a kind of strange social experiment. We're nudging you in particular kinds of ways. So it is a normal thing that most people do. So it's just a matter of getting used to sitting longer and longer. The longer you sit, you'll just sort of get used to it. And it's like, okay, well, if you sort of up it to about 40 minutes, it's like you'll sit for about 40 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, what time is it? Then you're only looking at the clock for 20 minutes. You get a bit better, get it up to 50 minutes. I can sit for 50 minutes. Oh, it's the last 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes is torturous. So again, it's just what you're used to. Usually when we're not used to something, we become uncertain, we become a little bit agitated, and so we find a way to look for that. Looking at the clock is one of them. So it's just, it is just sort of something that it is. One thing you can do, I used to do it quite a lot, is when I was sitting for longer periods of time, I did the same thing, look at my watch. But then so it's not usually recommended to set an alarm. But one thing you can do is sit there and set an alarm just for a little bit longer than what you usually would sit. And it's like, right, whatever it is, look, I trust the alarm. The alarm will just go off when the alarm goes off after half an hour or whatever it is. And you can just practice with that. It's like, well, I'm definitely not going to look at this thing. I'll just wait till the alarm goes off. So that is one way you can do it, and just sort of increase that a little bit as you go along. So yeah.
Thanks. Just a quickie. Does the time actually go slower?
Depends on your view of time. Like we could get into a whole thing here, but I won't. So it can. So actually, you can have distorted perceptions of time when you're meditating. Things can either go slower or they can go faster. And so that's for when you're meditating. But this can also happen when we're doing sport or something like that as well. If we're really into the game, the time goes quicker. If we're losing the game or something, time goes slower. But meditation is one of those things where you can have a radically altered perception of time. Now, does time itself go slower or faster? Well, who really knows? But if you're looking at a subjective interpretation of time, that can sort of shift and move a little bit. But it depends how good the meditation is. It's probably a good indication of how good your meditation is going. If it feels like it's going a long time, it's probably not so fun. If it feels like it's gone in a snap, it's probably pretty good. So yeah. We've all battled with the with the clock. We've all been there. So
thank you, Ajahn. The next online question is: can we do samatha and vipassana interchangeably in one meditation session, and as well shifting one meditation object to another object?
Yeah. So there is and just for anybody that maybe isn't familiar with some of the terms, samatha and vipassana. Samatha is more like calming meditation. Vipassana is more, the development of wisdom, the development of clear knowing and insight. In particular kinds of traditions, these two are really separated out into two different things. One is one kind of meditation, the other is another kind of meditation. So if you're from that kind of school of thought, where it's like they're two very totally different kinds of meditation, then can you do those within the same meditation session? Like, well, sure, and to build onto that for your second question is that can you do different kinds of meditation within the one session? Yeah, for sure. There's no problem with that at all. With this aspect of switching between samatha and vipassana, you can do that as long as, and also with switching between different meditation techniques. You can do this, but it's more if you're just switching between the two because you're distracted, or you're agitated, and by agitated I don't mean necessarily angry, but I mean you're kind of wound up and you're jumping around a lot. If you're switching just because of that, that's probably not an optimal thing. So it's like it's like Ajahn Chah used to give the analogy of it's like if you're digging for water. If you dig for water and you keep digging, eventually, this is Thailand, it's not really Australia. Australia, you can dig down a very long way and you won't get water. But Thailand, you don't have to dig too far down. He's like, basically you have to keep digging in the same place and you'll get to water. But if you keep stopping and digging, get 3 scoops of earth out and then walk over and do another 3 scoops of earth and another 3 scoops of earth, and it's like you're not really going to get down to the water. So if you're jumping around just because you're sort of distracted, that's probably not optimal. Now, can you, then back to the first question, can you switch between samatha and vipassana? Well, yeah, and it depends what you mean by samatha and vipassana. Some people separate them. Other people say that, well, you can do the two simultaneously. There isn't really a separation between the two. The calmer that your mind becomes, you're more able to see things with clarity. You're more able to see the arising and passing away of all phenomena. So within the development of samatha and calm there, you're also developing vipassana as well. So you can do samatha and vipassana totally separately. You can sort of, move back and forth from one to the other, or some would even say that you can actually do both simultaneously. So yeah, it's just what you feel comfortable with, and as long as you're not kind of deceiving yourself into just jumping around to a lot of different techniques. If you've set it up and you think, well, I'm going to sit for an hour, I'll do let's say, hypothetically speaking, I'll do the first hour of maybe watching my breath, developing samatha. Within the second half an hour, for 20 minutes, I'll try to develop some vipassana, try to develop some insight into things arising and passing away. And in the last kind of 10 minutes, I might do some loving kindness meditation or something like that. Something like that is fine, but once you've sort of set something up, then you can. It's usually better to try to stick with that thing a little bit more.
Thank you, Ajahn. Are there any more questions here in the hall? Might move quickly to the next online question, which is, what does it mean to cleanse or calm the mind during meditation? How do you do it in practice?
Good question, yeah. So it relates a little bit to the previous question of developing what we call samatha, or developing what we call vipassana. So vipassana, again, is a kind of insight, a kind of wisdom. So cleansing and calming, you could say, well, the mind is becoming a lot more. So usually if you look into your mind just on any given day, you're walking around in traffic, you're walking around with a lot of people, you've got work to do, there's this kind of, ongoing narrative. There's always some kinds of thoughts that's filling up your experience. You might be having like a running narrative on the world, telling yourself to do this, to do that, and underlying that there's this kind of push and momentum of some kind of affective feeling tone. So there's a kind of moving forward. There's a perpetual motion that you might feel just as you're going about your day. So calming and clearing the mind is when you can maybe stay with a meditation object for a little bit longer, and that kind of perpetual motion starts to slow down a little bit. It starts to not move as fast, and so when something is not moving as fast, it's a little bit more, you could say it's a little bit more fluid, it's a little bit more, open. And so when the mind is becoming, more fluid, open, you can see things a little bit more clearly. You can see this kind of running of your thoughts. It's like, oh, okay, that's sort of interesting. There's a bit more of a gap between the thoughts. And so eventually, we might just start to, because we're turning inward, we may be starting to see our experience with a little bit more clarity. And the mind isn't, you could say, flowing out in that way and flowing with the world and getting pulled along by the world, and again that kind of momentum. It's coming inwards a little bit more, and you can see this kind of outflow, and you see this kind of outflow, and you realize how agitating, how stressful this can be. You come further and further in, and as you come further and further in, the mind does kind of settle down and starts to become clearer. You can start to see through things a little bit more, as opposed to being pulled around by them. You can see through these things. So this is something that can happen when we focus inwards a little bit more. We try to stay with maybe our meditation object, something like the breath. The more we can sort of draw inwards as opposed to being pulled outwards, then this will start to calm down and things will start to become clearer. Whenever we're getting pulled around by the world, we just tend to believe, whatever the kind of narrative is telling us. I need to do this thing next. I need to do that thing next. I need to do this and do that. This person said this and it means this and blah, blah, blah. And you're basically just getting pulled along. You're never really, sort of stopping to investigate what that process is like. But the more you come inwards, draw inwards, and not be pulled around by the world, you can sort of stop and go, hang on, what's that? If that thing's going out that way, like, do I really need to do that thing? Do I really need to believe this interpretation? Again, so you're starting to see the mind clearer. As you go, okay, when I'm getting pulled around, the mind is just sort of, in some way, just telling me what to do, and sometimes even playing tricks on me. I can see this process more as I go more and more inward, so I see things more clearly. And the more I see things clearly, the calmer the mind becomes. You can settle down. The classic analogy is like if you have a glass of dirty water, and if you're always sort of shaking it and moving it around, the sediment stays up and you can't really see through the glass. But if you just put the glass down and let it settle and not let it be pushed around by the tides and the waves and all these kinds of things, or the movement of your hands, it will start to calm and settle down, so the water will become a lot more clear. And so your mind is the same. Again, if you can draw inwards and stay still and stay focused on something, all that kind of messy sediment that's in the water will just start to drop down, and so you will start to see things more calm and clearly. So hope that answers the question.
Thank you. If you've got a question in the hall, please shout out. Otherwise, I'll just quickly go through. There are just two more questions, maybe short answers to them.
Yep.
Dear Ajahn, recently on a few occasions, that's the last one. The second last one is, during meditation, thoughts seem to arise from nowhere.
Yep.
Do they arise from memory and karma? How does it work?
Yeah, that's an incredibly complex question. That's not a quick question. That's an incredibly complex question. So where do thoughts come from? The quicker answer, and I think the cleanest answer, is the kind of automatic thoughts that we have is the conditioning that we have. Dependent on the conditioning that we have, you will have particular kinds of thoughts. So I grew up in Australia, I grew up at a particular culture in a particular time, I speak a particular kind of language, I had a particular kind of education, I interacted with particular people. All these kinds of conditioning factors together are going to determine what pops into my mind next. If you were to ask me, like, think of a song, you know, the thing that will pop into my mind is the kind of the music that I listened to when I was a kid. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds and thousands, maybe there's millions of songs in the history of human evolution. But the only songs that pop into my head are the ones that I've heard and that I'm familiar with. So you could say the automatic and the somewhat seemingly random thoughts that pop into my head, this is due to my conditioning. So however you've been conditioned, this is going to condition what kind of thoughts come next, what kind of thoughts pop into your mind. You know, this idea is this question of, well, is it my past karma or what is it? You know, if you want to see your current karma as your past conditioning, yeah, in some way, then that is your karma. But you know, try not to read into it too much of like, oh, this thought popped into my head because 58 lives ago I was an elephant or something like that. Like, you know, there's no need to go that far back, you know, but you can just sort of see, however I'm conditioned in this existence, this is going to be the reason I have sort of intrusive and random and automatic thoughts. Yep.
Great. So good quick answer to a complex question. The last one is, dear Ajahn, recently, maybe some of us can relate to this,
yep.
Recently on a few occasions I dozed off during meditation,
yep.
and awoke to my mind talking to itself.
Yeah.
I usually come out of it disorientated and confused.
Yeah.
Is there a more skillful way to use such experiences?
Yeah, that's a cool question. That's a good question. So I usually wake up confused, like when I go to sleep, and every day that I wake up, I'm like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? So it's, for me, it's such an, and I don't want to ramble too much, but for me, that's actually such an interesting experience of like when you first come back online, and it's like, who am I? All these kinds of things. So there's that experience there. It's like who you are when you come out of your experience cutting off in some way is super interesting. The whole sense of self and who you are gets built up again. It's like, okay, I'm Kevin and I live in this place and I'm 44 years old and and I'm a Buddhist monk as well. Okay, cool. All right, well, that hasn't changed, you know, like, yeah. So all that kind of identity can come back online and everything comes back into this process. So you can see how, again, we construct who we are by whatever sort of input that we're actually getting. But that first kind of moment was like, I'm disorientated and I don't know where I don't know who or what or where I am. This is a kind of moment where like you're free of all that just for like a sliver of a second. So this can be quite interesting. So you ask for a skillful way that you can use this. Well, you know, at least for me, that's a kind of skillful way that you can use this. Obviously, you know, if you're doing it in meditation and you're sort of falling asleep, well, you know, sometimes you just need to sleep, and that's fine. But yeah, if you can, and if you're falling asleep kind of thing, and you're sort of like woken up kind of thing, it's like, you know, you can try to skillfully use it of maybe thinking of like, well, what was my mind like before I fell asleep? Like what was sort of happening? How was my posture? What kind of thoughts? How were they going in a particular kind of way? So you can maybe think back and go, well, these were the kind of signals I was getting as I was falling asleep. So next time when I'm sitting meditation, if those kind of signals come up, if my head starts to drop, or if things start to get opaque and transparent, and I sort of start to drift in this way, it's like, that means I'm falling asleep. Okay, I should reestablish mindfulness again. But yeah, for me, the skillful way is just to go like, okay, cool. What happens if what happens in this waking moment when I'm not really who the person that I think I am? Like, where does that thing come from? Where does that sense of identity and self come from? So that's for me, that's a fun thing to do. It's a bit of a surprise every morning. So yeah. Cool. Probably with that, we might call it a night. I believe there are announcements now. So again, really nice that you all came along, and I'll pass over to Langdon for a few announcements.
Thank you, Ajahn, for the whole night, for your support and guidance. Just very quickly, there is another meditation here tomorrow night, just for people in Melbourne, with Sandeep, our lay teacher. Just a reminder, Monday to Thursday nights at 7 p.m, we have Make Meditation a Healthy Habit on the Discord channel, and you can find out more about that on our website or through our newsletter. Also, each morning, 4 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. is the New Day, New Mind daily meditation group that you can join on Discord as well. Ajahn Nando joins the room between 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. And just a note about the Make Meditation a Healthy Habit, they are always led by monastic as well. So the only other thing is that there is the next week's teaching program will be led by Ajahn Nisarano. He's taking the Sunday morning Dhamma talk and the guided meditation next Monday night. And after the Sunday morning Dhamma talk and the lunch here, we're having our Kalyanamita cleaning day, which is the last Sunday of each month. So if you are here around the hall on Sunday, you're welcome to join us at about 12:30 for about 1 hour. We're just going to do some gardening work, so bring some gardening gloves and safety glasses if you have them, and help us make the place look wonderful. All the announcements. Thank you, Ajahn.
Perfect. Okay. Good to see everyone. We'll call it a night. Thanks for everyone that's come to the hall and everyone that's joined in online from the various places around the world. And we'll see you next time somewhere in Samsara.